Hello there, happy Sunday. It is so nice to see you again. It is actually sunny today. I am a bit sad to make you miss out on this absolutely gorgeous view, but I don't want to dox myself, so all you get is like the actual bit of the balcony and not the street. But I can probably show you a quick clip of the clouds afterwards because they're absolutely gorgeous today. But hi, if you're new here, my name is Marta. I'm an aspiring author currently working on the first book in my project site, Trilogy. I am still not used to saying that because I've only just finished the second book and it feels a little bit like we've moved backwards, but that's okay. I haven't done any writing yet today. It's 5 p.m, which is insane. It has gotten so late today. I don't really know where the day has gone. I mostly spent the morning doing like a bunch of admin things and doing some 3D printing, which meant it was far too loud to do any recording. But I want to do some writing today because not only have I not done any writing today, I am also extremely behind on my writing goal for the month. For the past almost a full year now, I've been using TrackBear to track my time. I've been using time tracking from way before that, but I've never really had time goals before converting into TrackBear. So I'm currently using a separate system to track my time, and then I move it into TrackBear every few days or so. And what's happened this month is I was on holidays on the 1st of February, so I didn't sign up to any leaderboards and I didn't do any like moving my time into TrackBear. I was just tracking on my other system, and by the time I got back, I was just like, I had a week and a half worth of numbers to pass over and I really couldn't be bothered. So I left it really late, and then the other day I finally moved all of my numbers over and I realized that I am 4 hours behind the goal that I'd set, which is 15 hours for the month, and this is the last week of February, so I kind of do want to catch up on that. I haven't been going as hard on writing as I was last year. Last year I was doing a separate system where I started from 15 hours a month and then increased by 1 hour per month, and I did that all the way up until December, where I think I was on 24 hours per month, and that was great. It worked really well. Like, it was really fun to sort of slowly increase my daily writing, but by December it just felt like I had increased it too much. Like, it was starting to become unmanageable. So at the minute I'm actually just trying to stick to 15 hours per month, which works really well for me, I think. In January this year I put down 15 as my goal, hit it really quickly, and then increased it to 20, and now in February I seem to be struggling to even get to 15. So I'm sure my downstairs neighbor thinks I'm completely mental now, but it's fine. All that to say, I really want to get some writing in this week. I have a lot to catch up on, and I'm hoping it's going to be a really productive week. Hello there, please ignore the slight mess that is my desk. I will be tidying this up at some point. We have tangible plans to clean the desk, but for now, this is what you're getting. I have spent the past few days working on my revision plan, working on not necessarily my plan itself, but working through how I felt about the reread and trying to analyze the existing draft as it stands. And I just wanted to pop in here and sort of show you what I've actually been working on, because I find the revision process to be the hardest one to nail down. Like, there's so many different ways to go about it, and some of the things that I've been doing this time around have been working really well for me, so I want to share them with you in case they're useful to you as well. I have of course been working in Notion, and I've been trying to put a little bit more attention into making my Notion pages just look a little bit nicer. This is very heavily inspired by Malin because her Notion always looks absolutely stunning. So I'm just gonna record my screen and show you around a little bit. So welcome to my Notion page. I will warn you, most of the time I use this in like double screen mode in my Windows, so it probably looks like everything's off to one side. That is very much on purpose because that is how I normally use this. I'm calling this draft 6. It should really be draft 6 planning, realistically. And I just have my initial notes from the reread. There's some reread goals, things that I was keeping in mind while working my way through the story. And I have my notes that are in here. They're all hidden away, so no spoilers. And then after that, I've got my actual, where I started working on my revision plan. I spent some time figuring out what I wanted draft 6 to be. And then after that is when I sort of started thinking about actually using beat sheets properly. So I've tried reading Save the Cat multiple times and I always give up. I am currently on my 4th attempt at reading all the way through it. But I can go through the summary pages quite easily because they're not that long. I have enough willpower to do that, fortunately. So something that I started doing, and I will get back to what this graph is later on because I sort of added that afterwards. But if I scroll down, I sort of started with this table and I started just copying down what each of the beats are called and what the descriptions are. Because I'm really not that familiar with the Save the Cat beat sheet, and I certainly was not matching my story beats to it when I originally outlined and wrote this book, which is why I thought this would be useful, because as my outline doesn't perfectly match this, I wanted to see if there was anywhere obvious that what I'm writing was too long compared to Save the Cat. I really like that Save the Cat gives you percentages for where your story should be. So what I was trying to do here after writing out these first 2 columns was trying to figure out which parts of my story match those things best, what chapters that was, and occasionally like little tidbits of where I can make things a little bit better. And I sort of did this from the opening image all the way up to the midpoint, and then I stopped. And then I've done the same thing later on for this 3 Act 9 Block 27 chapter outline structure. Which is closer to what I used when I was outlining. I was only using it very, very loosely, but I was more looking at that for reference than Save the Cat, so I do expect that one to match up a little bit better. But after making this table for both outline structures, I did not find this useful. I wanted it to be useful, I knew it had the potential to be useful, but I just couldn't, like this chapter numbers next to percentages just wasn't good enough for me, so I went into Excel. Now fortunately I can show you this as well actually. The way I do my outlines is like this, and because I'm using probably the world's most inefficient system to write my novel, I am using LibreOffice, which is the free version of Word, and I'm writing 1 chapter per Word document. I am only a little bit insane, but the bad thing about that method is that it's really hard for me to keep track of word count. So a few times I finished the draft and I was like, oh great, how many words is that total? I have no idea. So I started keeping track of my word count. Whenever I finish a chapter, I would put it in these columns. And fortunately, Notion lets you export it to Excel now, which means I can do maths. So this table is just my latest draft, which is draft 5, the chapters and the word count. And then I made a little extra column that just adds up all of the words. So it's like the sum of everything up until here, so like that plus that is that, and then this one would be those 3, and then that one would be those 4, etc, etc. And if I paired that with the fact that I had the percentages for Save the Cat beats and the chapter numbers for each of the beats in my actual story, as well as my total word count, that means that I can do this and do some more maths. I'm gonna click through the formulas. I'm not gonna explain the formulas because this is not an Excel tutorial, but you can copy them if you want to. You can pause the video. It's honestly not that hard. Like, I know people are scared of Excel. It is not that difficult. You can figure it out. I believe in you. You are super smart. But this first column is just like the actual numbers from the Save the Cat beat sheet from the book. And then my expected percentage, I sort of figured it out because some of the Save the Cat beats are not quite linear. Like, you've got the opening image, which is the first percent, but then the scene stated is at 5%, and then your setup is at 1 to 10%. So like, there's some overlap happening. So I worked this out in the best possible way to match what the book says, but making it linear because I did not want to handle overlaps. Let's be honest, this is complicated enough as it is. So like the opening image I ended up making 4%, and then scene stated was just 5%, but it's a duration of 1%, if that makes sense. So that will be from 0 to 4%, then scene stated is 1%, so that's like at the 5% mark. And then setup is 5% total, but that goes from 6% to 10%. You get the idea. And then I have 2 columns for my starting chapter and my ending chapter, which I can just numbers. And these are just these numbers from my reverse outline document. And then here comes the interesting bit, because I can put down my starting word count based on these chapters, based on these word counts. So one that isn't 0, like this one, I'm basically looking for that chapter number from this column, and then taking this number here for the starting chapter, and then if this is the ending chapter, it's taking this number here. So this is the number of words before I started writing chapter 4, this is the number of words after I finished writing chapter 4. So the formula for starting word count has this -1 here, the formula for ending word count does not. And then I've got a basic percentage formula over here. This is my total word count as of draft 5, and that's giving me how much percentage that beat actually takes in my story, in my draft as of right now, which I can put into a pretty graph, because who doesn't love a pretty graph? So this is taking these numbers and these numbers and basically just plotting them one after the other, so it's a lot easier to see where I am not matching the actual beat sheet. And not even just in terms of chapters, but in terms of actual word count. Which is so good, because my word counts are very inconsistent. I have chapters that are 200 words, I have chapters that are 5,000 words. So looking at just chapter numbers does not give me that much information. And you can kind of see, like, my midpoint is like not at my midpoint. Like this is like at 60%. So my first half of a book is longer than half the book, which is not good. That's not how you're supposed to do midpoints. The midpoint is supposed to be the middle. That is like writing basics, right? And there's some very obvious bits here, like this orange setup, like it's really long. And my debate is relatively pretty short. And then my actual midpoint is like way longer than it's supposed to be, which is a much better starting point for me to sort of brainstorm how to make the book feel better. And quite honestly, I haven't found this particular graph quite as useful as I was hoping to, but I did this exact same thing for the 9-block structure, which is this one. So these are the exact same formulas, but with the 9-block structure beats. These don't actually give you percentage, but I'm sort of going from the assumption that each beat is supposed to be equal length. And again, we're only going up to the midpoint here. And from this, it's actually really clear that I have a problem at this section of the graph. So somewhere around halfway through Act 1, this is really slow compared to what I would expect from the actual structure. Like that feels very noticeably chunky. And that is actually, if I go back to my reread notes, the bit where I was struggling to keep focus on the story, the bit where I didn't feel like reading my own book. It could be burnout, it could be because I was genuinely quite tired when I started my reread, but this tells me that actually there might be something else going on here, and that this part of the book is actually worth going through with a fine-tooth comb and figuring out how I can make this a lot better than it currently is. So that's sort of what I've been trying to do since. This is the same sort of graph and table for the other plot line. I also have some 2-goal structure outlining, reverse outlining bits, some brainstorming bits. And then what I've been working on for the last couple of days since doing those graphs, it's actually brainstorming how to fix it. So this is where I'm actually starting to make a revision plan finally, after 2 months of rereading and brainstorming. And I'm just trying to really tackle that section of the book. So I'm thinking about combining a couple of chapters, I'm thinking about removing some scenes, and just trying to really figure out what is needed and what can I remove without significantly making the story worse effectively. And it very much feels like I'm not there yet. I have some ideas of how to make this better, but they all break the plot at least slightly. So we sort of ripped up a bunch of threads and we're trying to tie them back together in different ways now and basically practicing my knot making, but at least it feels like I have some direction now, which is really exciting. Hello there, I made muffins. As you can see, they smell so good. I am so excited. And I am heading over to Malon's place in 18 minutes earlier. And I am bringing these over and we're gonna be having a little writing date. I am so excited and I'm just really looking forward to it. I have been continuing to brainstorm those Act 1 structural problems a little bit. I think I've kind of got a solution that probably works now. I'm sure that I will make more changes to that new structure and change my mind a bunch of times as I'm actually implementing it, but I think I'm happy enough with what I've done that I can start revisions. And that's actually going to be so good because it's a lot easier to do revisions as a writing date with someone else with like writing sprints and stuff than it would be to brainstorm a problem like that. If I'm brainstorming a problem, I just want to be completely by myself, stuck into the writing, no interruptions, no alarms every half an hour, and just really focus on the problem. But we've done that now, so I was a bit worried that I wouldn't be able to finish it in time, and if that had been the case, the first few chapters didn't need that much work, so I could have just line edited those. But we did it, so I can officially start draft 6 at Malon's place today. I really need to get going, so I'm gonna put these into an actual easy to transport box, and I will bring you along.